Okay, the Prime Sports Horse Report returns as we break down key numbers from last week's results, update the Breeders' Cup Challenge, take a look at the current stake schedule, and decide which races we're going to handicap on tomorrow's show. John Hardoon, how are you this evening?
Good evening, my friend. How are you?
Doing good. And before we break down the Bluegrass Stakes tomorrow, as well as one of the other stakes races, which we'll go over in just a few minutes to make that decision, which is still always going to be up in the air based on track conditions and so forth. But we're going to try to always give everybody a little bit of a head start of the races that we're going to talk about 24 hours earlier. But before we get into all that quickly, John, let's talk about what happened last week. We had two races that we handicapped, both at Belmont Park. You hit the grade 3 poker with Social Paranoia, and that was a really good, those were those races that you like, where Social Paranoia was able to come from behind and catch the field pretty much towards the end. It wasn't easy, but Social Paranoia got the job done.
Doesn't matter whether you win by an inch or whether you win by 100 feet. So you get paid the same amount of money when you win. So
and what was that? That was a 5-1 horse?
Yeah.
So what did that? Okay, very good. Did you have anything else other than the win? Did you do anything else?
No, I bet him to win, and that's what I recommended. What I tell people to do, that's what I do. There are plenty of handicappers out there that either don't bet what they say they're going to bet, or they bet $1 or $2 on a race. But I'm not afraid to bet, and when I like a horse, I send it in, and that's what I did.
All right, and then
winning that race was fine, but then came Mackenzie, who I really liked, and
yes.
He run well, and that race I lost. But
yeah, I mean that if that was like the worst race he's had. I mean, he's had the two bad races McKenzie had was the one in Saudi Arabia and right. The Breeders' Cup Classic, which is always you could always get lost in one of those races. So that was real disappointing.
It was disappointing, but his number, believe it or not, he ran a 6. I thought he ran a lot worse. He actually ran a better number than Vekoma in losing the race. Vekoma ran a 7 winning the race.
Yeah, so he bounced like we thought he was going to bounce.
Exactly.
And yet we didn't get the payout.
Right, because you would think a 7, if someone was going to run a 7 in that race, they would have no shot, because Mackenzie never runs worse than a 3. I mean, there were plenty of horses in there.
Right.
Even though the one horse at a big price, I forget his name.
Network Effect. Do you remember what his number was?
Like with the perfect line, if you remember, he had 8, 7, 6.
Yes.
So he was working his way down, and he was the bet he ended up running second.
Yes, he did. He was perfectly positioned for the exacta with McKenzie.
Right, and if you thought a 7 was going to win the race, that would have been, he would have been certainly the right horse to bet.
We would have thought Network Effect probably would have won the race then.
Exactly. If someone told you needed a 7, you could have bet Network Effect easily.
Yeah, and even Code of Honor didn't have a good race.
No one fired. The race came up as a bad race.
Well, that was a very slow pace too. That worked to Vekoma's favor.
Vekoma's advantage, because he was loose on the lead.
Yep.
So the name of the game is pace makes the race. It's a saying around the racetrack. If they're going to go slow early, they're going to have to go fast late. You can't go slow early and slow late.
No.
But the race came up as a bad race as far as for that caliber horses. It was a grade 1, I believe. It was a lot of money, and nobody showed up. That race went in a slow time, and it will be reflected the next time these horses run.
And actually, it's also good for Vekoma, because it's a Breeders' Cup Challenge race, so he moves on to the Breeders' Cup.
So 1 year in, he can now take off as long as he wants, because he doesn't have to worry. He's in.
And now, and you don't have to worry about a bounce this time.
Right, because he bounced and won. That's the best that could happen if you own or train the horse, or even if you bet on him. If they bounce and win, that's strong, because you're winning when you weren't supposed to win.
That's right.
And that's what happened. So like everything else in life, there's a certain amount of luck involved, and luck certainly played its toll last week.
Okay, now Del Mar opens when?
Tomorrow,
right?
Yes, sir.
And now we're not going to have any races on the show tomorrow. They do have two stakes races, the Delaware Handicap and the Memorial. We're not going to call either one of those races tomorrow. Belmont has the Grade 2 Ruffian. We won't be doing that race either. But we're going to go ahead and take both races from Keeneland, including the Bluegrass. Of course, the Bluegrass is a pretty big race, even though it's not as big as some of the other Kentucky Derby prep races. But it's a nice wide open race.
Well, what really makes it interesting is usually it's run like 2 weeks before the Derby, so it's your last chance to get in if you're needing points. This year, though, with the craziness in the world that's going on, it doesn't mean anything because the Derby's not going to be run until September 5th.
Yes.
So, winning that race now, yeah, it's great to get the points if you need the points, but, and the importance of the race is not as important as it is every other year. Let's put it.
And there are 13 horses in the race, and you don't really have like there's
no superstar.
No. So right. There's a good opportunity for a potential payout.
That's what makes those races good betting races. Yes. Who wants a race when you have a horse that's 2 to 5 and a big standout? You don't want those races. You want races that are hard, that have 13 horses in them and that are competitive. That's how you find value and that's how you make money. And that's what we will do for everyone tomorrow night at this time.
Yes, Swiss Skydiver right now is the morning line 3-1 favorite with Smith on board. I'm looking over here. I don't see. I'm not looking at any hotshot trainers. And is that because it's Keeneland or is that?
Oh, well, first of all, this is a unique meet. It's 5 days. The whole Keeneland meet this year is 5 days.
That long.
Yeah, that long. It started on Wednesday, I believe.
Wow.
And that's all it is. It's 5 days.
Okay.
And they never run there at this time of year because it's like supposedly really hot there this time of year in Kentucky. So they get those thunder showers every day. Today the track came up sloppy because it rained right before the races started. Then it rained during the day, and that's what happens, in a lot of these climates at this time of year. Like Florida, it rains every day for 15 minutes. The question is when. So
all right. So some of the other stakes races tomorrow, you got the Appalachian. That's a Grade 2. We're not going to go with that one. That's only a 6-horse field. Then you take a look at the 5th race, which right now we are leaning towards this being one of the 2 races. It's the Madison. It's a Grade 1 race. And this is a field of 9 horses. The only thing I'm a little bit concerned with is the even money favorite of Groana, even though when I was looking at the sheets earlier, I didn't see a horse that looked like they should be an even money favorite. But we'll see.
That's a hype horse that's highly regarded, that has a pretty good lifetime record. I guess that's why.
Okay. And then the 6th race is a Grade 2 Shackleton. There are a lot of horses in that race. There are 14, so that's a possibility as well because of the amount of horses in that field. So that's in the running. Then you take a look at the 7th race, and that one is a Grade 1. That's the Ashland, but there's only 6 horses in that field, so we won't be doing.
But to be honest with you, if one of those 6-horse fields you're talking about comes up with a price horse where the favorite's no good, we'll have no problem doing that race, or at least certainly mentioning it to people. So
yeah, right now Speech is the 2-1 favorite, and then you have Venetian Harbors a 6-5. So you actually have 2 favorites there.
Right.
So I don't know about that one, but then you have the Jenny Wiley is a Grade 1. That's the 8th race. 8 horses in that field. The favorite is Rushing Fall, a 6-5 favorite in that one.
Is that a turf race?
Let's see. That one is
probably. If Rushing Fall's in it, I would assume it's a turf race.
Let's see. Yeah. Where does it say it on this thing?
I don't know. Look right at top.
Yep, turf race. Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, Greg.
Okay, John.
We'll talk tomorrow night, 7:00 Eastern time.
We will do so. Take care. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, my friend. Be well. Stay safe.
Okay, sounds good. All right, that's it for the show. John, Hardoon has left us already. He's in freeze mode right now. You see, I could actually just talk to John, and John will have that look on his face for the next 5 minutes. Quickly, just want to let everybody know too, as far as the schedule is concerned. Next week, Saratoga opens. That's the 16th. So that's actually going to be on Saturday. So a week from Saturday, Saratoga opens with the Grade 1 America Oaks and the Grade 2 National Museum of Racing Hall of Fame. So that's next Saturday. And no Breeders' Cup Challenge races coming up this week. But next week, we have the Grade 1 Haskell from Monmouth Park. So that's coming up next week. But don't forget, tomorrow, Friday night, John and I are going to preview the Toyota. Actually, is it still the Toyota Bluegrass? I don't even know if it's still the. Let me see if it still has that. Let's see if it still has Toyota in there. I guess Toyota Bluegrass Stakes. So that's going to be tomorrow, of course, tomorrow night, as well as one of the other races that we talked about. We'll make a decision. I'm trying, and 90% of the time I'm going to give you the race that we're going to handicap. I usually can make up my mind 24 hours in advance. Like I said, the fifth race, leaning towards, but with, what was there? What did I say? 15? 15 horses in race 6. That is a possibility. 14 horses, in race 6. So that is also a possibility, because even though there's not a lot of great horses, there's an opportunity to make some money if we can hit it. So 5 or 6, that's what we're leaning towards tomorrow, along with the Bluegrass. Thanks for tuning into the Prime Sports Horse Report, and we'll see you tomorrow night right here on Prime Sports Network.